Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Podcast, and all you geeks at sea. Welcome to the latest episode of Sports Frenzy 2.0 with me, the maestro, Kevin Crane.
And yours truly, the conquistador, Dave Height.
So happy to have you aboard this week. We have got so much to talk about, both on our regular edition and our weekend edition. But holy crap, the NFL, the NCAA.
It's all a shit show.
As always, we will start with the NFL. And we will start last and go backwards. The Monday night game. The Patriots and the Bills.
Good.
Three passes from
by
Mac
the Patriots.
Jones.
Holy crap.
And they won the game.
Yeah, 46 carries by their running backs for 222 yards. That is the most lopsided balance I have ever seen.
It was an interesting game if you are a true diehard football fan. This type of game. The casual fan probably wanted to throw up in their shoe by the second quarter.
But this was just an old school knockdown, drag out, down and dirty in the trenches.
If you saw the film in the stadium in Buffalo before the game and saw how the goalposts were moving, 50-mile-an-hour gusts, you understand the strategy that both coaches were trying to implement throughout the game. And, of course, the genius wins again. Bill Belichick figured out how to do it to make it work for him and make it work against Sean McDermott.
Yep, and again shows that New England's defense is among the elite this season.
Yes, that's why they spent all that free agent money, not just on those two tight ends, but a lot of money on the defense, bringing back Kyle Van Noy.
Yep. Belichick knew the offense was going to struggle. They weren't going to put up a ton of points. He needed to hold people down.
Right. Matthew Judon, of course, has been phenomenal. But I'll tell you what, we've talked about how much we hate running back by committee. It works for New England right now. I think they have figured this out with Damian Harris and Stevenson, moving them in and out,
they keep them fresh.
series, keep them fresh, and that's where they got the 200-plus yards rushing. And Harris, of course, ran for the one big touchdown that really, right away, the minute it happened, you think, that's a huge advantage.
That's
and then they go for
set
two.
The tone.
They go for two because of the wind.
Right.
Get that.
Just
and then,
unbelievable.
Of course, the Bills miss a field goal because of the wind. Hits it right down the middle, and it shoots right off to the kicker's right.
Yeah, because when he kicked it, I guarantee there was no wind. And as soon as his foot connected, you could tell the wind kicked up at that moment and shifted it over.
Yep. So again, kudos to Bill Belichick. He is the man. He is the myth. He is the legend. He is the greatest coach of all time. I don't want to hear anybody argue.
No, you can't. The guy has figured it out.
And we talked about it 2 years ago when Brady left and went to Tampa. Who's going to be the one? They're both great. They're both great.
Yeah.
They both know what they're doing. You know, you had the two together. Now they split. This great, unbelievable football, Cosmic Atom split.
And now you're on a collision course.
And, of course, Vegas, 10% odds, the highest of any matchup for the Super Bowl, Buccaneers and Patriots. Oh, my God. The world would implode.
You didn't give the Patriots a chance at the beginning of the season. Nobody did, not knowing what would happen.
No,
but the evil genius has, again, assembled a team that plays the way he wants them to play. They play as a team. There's no individuals involved.
And he's got his kid running the defense. He's got Josh McDaniel running the offense.
They're locked in. It's hard to argue.
It's unbelievable. Just unbelievable. And everybody last year was giving him a hard time, saying, oh, he's lost it. He had crap last year. He had a shot Cam Newton.
Yeah,
and he still went 7-9 with that pile of steaming, burning garbage that he had. We should have known better. We should have known better. We should have known better.
He needed that little bit to retool, to figure out where he was going, and everything fell into place for him.
Now, part of me does not want to see Patriots Buccaneers in the Super Bowl just because we'll never get away from it. I mean, it will just be every media outlet everywhere, every radio station.
It's all going to be Brady versus Belichick, Belichick versus Brady.
Right.
Who's going to get the better of who?
There's a part of me that doesn't want to see it. As a pure football fan, yes, I want to see it. But as a human being who doesn't want to be bombarded with all the idiots bullshit in the media, just like Bill Belichick, I'm like him. I don't want to deal with it.
All right, let's face it. The worst day of the year is media day for the Super Bowl.
That whole week sucks.
But especially the opening media day, where every moron can get a press pass and ask the most stupid-ass question just to be able to say, I asked him a question.
Agreed. Completely agreed. Unfortunately, now we have to turn our attention to our teams. Well, not bad for the Bucs, not bad for the Dolphins.
No, they fared well.
Yep, Bucs are 9-3, Dolphins are 6-7.
Yep, again continuing to climb out of
and with that extra wild card now this year, the Dolphins are definitely in the mix in the AFC. Buccaneers, of course, trying to get that number 1 seed, but they need the Cardinals to stumble. And, of course, the Bears did not help them out at all.
No, of course, Andy freaking Red Rifle Dalton throws 4 freaking picks for the 5th time in his career. Can we officially pull out the Denny Green quote? He is who we thought he was?
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that.
My God, this is the guy, basically a clone of Nick Foles. Everything they said about Dalton, everything they said about signing Dalton, about his being able to fix whatever's going on and diagnose and make this offense hum, is what they said about Foles. Neither one can do it because they don't have the personnel there, because they have idiots running the offense, a head coach who's clueless, and a GM who hasn't been able to figure it out.
Yeah, that's my point too. And I'm looking at this because I have an accounting mind. I'm looking at this from money. I'm looking at this from assets. You basically paid double for the same quarterback.
Right.
You have Foles sitting on the bench. You didn't trade him. You're telling me you couldn't have got a 7th-round pick to ditch Foles. Joe Flacco got a 6th-round pick from the Jets.
I know.
Gardner Minshew. What did I text you? And I'm sorry. I am a Gardner Minshew fanatic. I love him. I love the mullet. The guy is
going to be a backup for the next 10 to 12 years because he's good.
He goes in when Jalen Hurts is out. I could have said hurt, but that would have been redundant. What I was hearing during the Bears game when they were describing what Minshew was doing, they said at one point he had a perfect passer rating. And we're not talking 2 minutes in. We're talking almost a full half in.
Yeah, through the first, almost to the end of the second quarter.
I don't understand why people hate this guy. He is likable. He is a great, like Dave said, backup. I would take him as a starter. And I went through the list of the NFL teams, and I still think Gardner Minshew could start for 8 to 10 teams right now. He's starting for the Eagles right now.
Yeah, that's about an accurate statement. If you look at the crap that's out there on the field.
But your assessment is accurate that at worst, he has guaranteed himself to be a backup quarterback into his 30s in the NFL. But why is it the Bears double pay just like we talked about, for the same damn guy, when they could have given away a 6th-round pick to get Minshew.
And
they would have told him, just like in Philadelphia, you're the backup.
Yeah.
You sit behind Justin Fields.
And I'm sorry, after the 3rd pick, Dalton's ass should have been benched and Foles should have been out there.
Yeah, what the hell is wrong with Foles? Why can't he even see the field? There's no excuse for this.
None whatsoever. What was it? When Foles went in for Trubisky after Trubisky threw 1 bad pick? How many did we get out of Dalton? 1 basically wasn't his fault, where it went through Komet's hands.
Now, are we looking at a situation, again, I'm not looking at the Bears roster top to bottom every Sunday morning. Is he being inactivated to open up a roster spot for somebody else?
Not that I've noticed, because he's sitting there dressed.
Because if that's the case, that's pathetic.
They showed him on the sideline,
millions and millions of dollars to sit there and do nothing.
Yeah, he was dressed. He was in uniform on the sideline, just sitting there waiting. And that's another nail in the Nagy Pace coffins.
Now, Fields, I don't understand this either. The season is lost, and I understand Nagy, who, by the way, I have never seen a guy look like a bigger idiot in cold weather than Matt Nagy. He's got his stocking hat on. It's skewed sideways.
For the damn headset.
Jesus God. Get a wardrobe person to come in and help you look at least halfway decent instead of looking around. You're running around like a maniac. Jesus. And if you're going to go out in style.
Ha! And then you got the headset issue.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Just like Joe Judge with the Giants about a month ago. Now Nagy's blaming the headsets.
Yeah, that they went out, and then they had to run the walkie-talkies. Ugh. So it was a complete cluster from the beginning. Here's the thing.
This is not the week to bring Justin Fields back.
No, it's not. You do not want him to play against the Packers.
If anything, I'd throw Foles out there and let him get his ass shellacked. Make him earn through bruises, broken bones,
something. Make
sprained ankles.
Hell, run the tandem of...
You're going to bring Justin Fields back with a bad rib.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Against the Packers, who are fighting for that number 1 seed.
Yeah,
you've got Mr. Lateral Thinker, who, I've got a bad toe. The COVID thing. And he's going to come out, I own the Bears, which he still says he does not regret saying.
Nor should he regret it, because it's freaking true.
But that's what. Just let him have one more game. He can just
don't put
brag.
Out
he can boast. Wait till next year.
Yeah, do not put Fields out there with this disaster. Now, the only bright spot is David Montgomery is one of the top running backs in the freaking league.
Okay, you and I are going to argue on this because I agree with you. But why is it always in the second half of the goddamn season? He needs to do this the first half of the season.
He was hurt the first half.
Again, I hate Saquon Barkley. I hate Christian McCaffrey because they're China dolls. Montgomery has got to be healthy in the first half of the season. He is not the be-all, end-all if he can't stay healthy for 16, 17, 18 weeks. He's got to be better than that. And yes, you've got decent backups in Khalil Herbert and Damian Williams. But you got to be like Jonathan Taylor. You got to be like Najee Harris. There. You have to be out there every week. And if you miss the first 4, 5, 6 games or the first 5 out of 8, you're not helping your team because they're buried in a deep, dark hole by the time you come back and then have a game like you're talking about.
But still, he is the only bright spot outside of maybe Mooney.
And then Mooney did not have the best game ever this past week. And I was thinking the same thing. I thought Mooney would come out and shine with Allen Robinson out, and he's another one. Contract year, why should I play for this pile of dung? So, I'm hurt. I'm not going to play. You're starting to see that now. With the extra game tacked on, all these players are going, "Oh, I'm hurt. I can't play again this year." I'm sorry.
There's a lot of
you
BS
give him more
going out
faith
there.
than I do. David Montgomery needs to play a full goddamn season.
Agreed on that.
If he had played like this the first 7-8 weeks, if he hadn't been hurt, maybe we'd have been a little bit better. Because God knows the Giants are still mathematically in the playoff chase. God. The Bears just got eliminated. The Giants are still alive.
That's sad. That's pretty pathetic.
Again, with the extra team added in. I got to talk about the Buccaneers for a second because we need to rant and rave about Antonio Brown.
Oh my God,
I was gonna put him in the dumbasses, but this is a bigger topic.
It's too big of a topic. I agree. I was gonna have him as my dumbass, but there's no excuse.
We talked about this 2 months ago. We talked about the possibilities
there are players
of
who are going to have fake cards.
We were focusing more on the NBA, I believe,
right,
because of Kyrie Irving than the NFL. And then, of course, what happens? Antonio Brown pulls an Antonio Brown.
The guy cannot get out of his own way.
And this is Tom Brady's guy. He loves Antonio Brown.
He went to bat for him to bring him in.
Multiple times. In New England and now in Tampa Bay.
And this is the thanks he gets.
And there's a lot of people out there who are mad about the fact that some say this wasn't punishment enough. The 3-game suspension?
Not enough.
But there are people that saying, okay, Antonio Brown gets 3 games. What did Aaron Rodgers get?
Exactly.
A slap on the wrist.
Nothing. What's the difference? The bad boy wide receiver versus the golden child quarterback.
I know.
It's absolute bullshit.
I know. If 3 games isn't enough for Antonio Brown, then where the hell's the punishment for Aaron Rodgers?
Ooh, $17,500 fine for breaking team protocols.
Yeah. No, I'm all with the discussion here. This is a discussion that needs to happen. What should the penalty be? Why didn't Aaron Rodgers get one? Did Antonio Brown with 3 games even get enough? Makes you think. If there's not an agenda at work behind the scenes, and of course we'll talk about that next segment with college football. The Lions finally won a game.
What the hell? How did they do that? And what happened to the stupid-ass Vikings?
I've told you, I kept trying to get on this Lions bandwagon. They've burned me and burned me and burned me, especially when they were playing the Bears. I figured that would be their first win.
God.
And somehow they beat the Vikings, who are trying to get into the last playoff spot in the NFC.
Yeah. Absolutely ridiculous.
Have you seen the video of his girlfriend?
Who?
Jared Goff's girlfriend?
No.
Everybody out there, I'm doing you a public service as well as helping my buddy out.
Don't look her up.
No, look it up.
Look it up.
Because there's like a real-time video of her out on the beach somewhere when she finds out that Jared and the Lions finally won their first game.
Oh, was she doing the slow-mo jump?
Bouncy, 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 fun, 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 fun for everyone. Yes, Jared Goff might look like a doofus, but he's doing much better than the rest of us. Just keep that in mind, kids.
There you go.
Injuries, defensive injuries. Jamal Adams done for the year for the Seahawks. Big one for the Ravens. Marlon Humphrey, star cornerback for them, done for the year. That's why Harbaugh says he went for 2 against the Steelers in that 1-point loss is because he did not trust his secondary. Didn't have the secondary to go into overtime to defend against the Steelers.
So Washington, Ryan Fitzpatrick is having hip surgery.
Boy, that was a bad signing. That was just
an odd injury to happen, too.
Now, a lot of people are going to say...
swelling in the hip hasn't gone down, which is requiring the surgery.
Right. And a lot of people are saying that Taylor Heineke, this is actually a blessing in disguise. Now they're on a roll. They're back to 500.
Yep.
But yeah, you gave all that money to Ryan Fitzpatrick, hoping you'd have like a nice dynamic offense
Veteran
to go with
helping
that
the
solid
younger
defense.
guy.
Of course, the defense hasn't panned out either.
No, the defense has been the letdown. The offense is finally starting to show signs.
Antonio Gibson looks good. McLaurin looks good. Now they just lost Logan Thomas again, just coming back from injury. He's done for the year. You know, you've already lost Chase Young for the year on the defensive side, so I don't know if that Washington team can hold up. But Chico will get the best out of any football player on this planet.
You got two of the top coaches on that team with Chico and Del Rio.
I know. That's why we've got them coming up in our picks.
So, and going back to your Bucks, history in the making could be going on this weekend. Tom Brady is on the verge of breaking Drew Brees' completion record. He's sitting at 71-25. Brees' record is 71-42. Well within reach this weekend.
He's the GOAT. He's the GOAT for a reason. But of course, you and I know in our hearts and in our minds, that's one thing you and I have agreed upon over the years. Dan Marino, if he'd been playing right now,
in this day and age of a pass, my God.
Brady, Brees, nobody would have touched him.
No, not even close.
I mean, given the fact that 45 years ago, he was lighting the world on fire.
Yeah.
When the defenses were allowed to do more, when the offenses were more archaic. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. With an extra game now? Oh, my God. Dan Marino would have destroyed the record book.
He wrote it for how long? And then the NFL really got pass happy after him.
Right. All right, couple games to talk about before we get into our picks. I've got to talk about this Chargers at Bengals game from last Sunday. Who the hell are the Chargers and who the hell are the Bengals? I thought this would be a walkover. You don't know from 1
week to next.
Chargers coming out from the West Coast to Cincinnati, outdoors.
And the Chargers have been playing like shit. The Bengals have been playing much better. And
the Chargers win by 19 points.
I don't get it.
We talked about Washington. Big game for them. Big win for them going in to play Las Vegas. In Las Vegas, disappointing Raiders effort altogether.
That was a complete letdown after what they did to the Cowboys.
Right.
To come out.
They had extra time to rest.
Yeah, to come out and play that poorly.
Right.
Is inexcusable.
Right. And I think, to me, that sinks the Raiders for the season.
Yeah,
that's a game you should have won at home. Now it boosts Washington, and we'll talk about that coming up. We talked about the Ravens-Steelers, decimated secondary for Baltimore. That's why they did what they did. They lost by 1 point. Seahawks, how the hell did the Seahawks beat the 49ers? I don't care if it was in Seattle. That team had been abysmal for a month and a half on offense.
Because this year's NFL makes absolutely zero sense.
And then, of course, we have talked about already the Patriots and the Bills. So it's time to move on to our 9 games.
Does it really matter anymore?
Yeah, unfortunately, the governor, Doug, has moved out to a very sizable 7-game lead in our football pick standings. Bill.
Yep, he did what I should have done and gone oppo of what the chalk would have been.
I've been thinking about
I tried to play it safe and it burned me.
Literally, if we were still doing Sports Frenzy on TV or YouTube, I would have a picture of George Costanza. And I would say, I'm going to do the opposite of everything in my life from now on, because otherwise it's not working. It's not working.
It's not working. So, the problem is I changed up what I was doing. And it came back to bite me.
I don't know. I go with my gut, it's wrong. I go with the numbers. I go with, the majority of the predictions from the experts, it's wrong. Nothing's working. Nothing is working. So let's do some more picks. Tomorrow night, December the 9th, Steelers at the Vikings. Vikings have one last chance. They have to win this game. Otherwise, they are done in the NFC playoff picture. The Steelers are hanging on in better shape. Here's my problem.
It's a tale of two crap teams, shall we say, that you don't know what you're going to get.
The problem I have with the Vikings is two things. Number one, Thielen out. Number two, Dalvin Cook out. Madison is a good replacement, but not quite up to Dalvin Cook's level. The Steelers are healthy on defense. They've got Claypool. They've got Deontay Johnson.
But they're on the road.
But the weather won't be a factor. That might actually help Big Ben.
They're still on the road.
All right. Well, right now we've got 7 of our 8 panelists in with their picks. We've got 4 Steelers and 3 Vikings. So it's pretty close to being split down the middle.
Yep.
Ravens at Browns. I don't understand the love for the Browns in this game. Even with the injuries to the Baltimore secondary, has Baker Mayfield shown anybody he can throw the ball?
No. Did he suddenly miraculously get a new shoulder? I don't think so.
Browns are favored in this game.
I don't know how.
Doug and Jen are both taking Cleveland. Everybody else taking the Ravens. I don't have a problem with this pick at all. This was one of the first ones I penciled in.
Yeah,
as bad as Lamar Jackson has lost the MVP, he looked great over the first 6-7 weeks. He's starting to throw desperation passes. I think he'll turn it around.
Yeah, Harbaugh's going to have a long talk with him.
Yep. Raiders at Chiefs. I put this on there because it's a rivalry game.
But it's the way the Raiders tanked it.
Right.
Going into Kansas City, it's the Chiefs.
All Chiefs for everybody. Saints at Jets. This is a sneaky game.
This Saints are dinged up. You don't know what they're going to do from week to week.
Outdoors, in the cold, in New York.
This has...
now, Jen is the only one taking the Jets, and I'll tell you why I think it's going to be really close. And it could bite us in the ass. Taysom Hill makes so many mistakes. He is dynamic, but he makes a ton of mistakes.
He doesn't know how to throw the ball.
Kamara is supposed to be back. That's why
that's going to help. That's why I took them as well. A dual threat at the running game.
Cowboys at Washington. Big game. Could be the game of the week. Although there are really good games coming up here in a minute. Again, I like what Chico's doing.
I don't know that they have enough to hang with the Cowboys.
The Cowboys are so talented. And right now the defense, you could even say, is extremely talented. I can't pick. I just don't like this Washington team. I love Chico. I love Ron Rivera so much.
But there's no consistency.
Everybody's in love with Taylor Heineke. I know Antonio Gibson is a really good running back. McLaurin's a really good wideout. But you can go 4 deep at wide receiver with the Cowboys. You can go 2 deep at running back.
Yeah.
You've got a really good tight end, and you've stocked up that defense.
There's too much for the Cowboys not to win this one.
So you and I are taking the Cowboys as well as Bill, Doug, and Aaron.
Yep.
Washington for Jen and Sam. We told you this was going to be a jam-packed episode, so guess what? We're going to do some NFL spillover into our second segment. We've got a few more picks, including 2 massive games. Bills at Buccaneers, Rams at Cardinals.
Big implications.
We need time to talk about those. So guess what, kids? Sit tight. Sit through a promo. We'll be right back.
Hello, friends. Are you tired of the boring sports analysis you get from the major outlets? If so, Join the Maestro and the Conquistador for a riveting discussion of all sports topics on Sports Frenzy 2.0. Available on Spotify, Google, Apple, and wherever podcasts are available.
Hey kids, like we promised you, it's bonus NFL time on Sports Frenzy 2.0 here on December 8th is where we're taping. I'm the Conquistador Dave Height.
And I am the Maestro, Kevin Crane.
So, where did we leave off? Oh, yes. 49ers at Bengals. God.
Again, two teams we talked about
Zero
Chargers
faith
and
in
Bengals.
both of them.
It's unbelievable. It's Jekyll and Hyde. There are so many teams that are Jekyll and Hyde this year. You don't know what to expect. Part of me says I should have taken the 49ers, but they go up into Seattle, a short travel for them,
and get
should be an
trounced.
easy road game against an offense that has
sucks.
been pathetic, and they get beat. Does that reflect on how much Deebo Samuel means to them since he missed the game?
Who knows?
What happened with the Bengals last week? How did they let the Chargers come in and just stomp them at home? With all the talent they've got, Mixon's healthy, Jamar Chase healthy, T. Higgins healthy. What the hell, man?
Flip a coin. I'm taking the home team on this one. I don't know why.
Yeah, we've got 7 picks in. We're 4-3. 49ers have 4 picks. Bengals have 3. You and I are on the same page.
With Mrs. C.
I've got to believe that the Bengals will bounce back at home and win this.
I would hope they would. That's almost their pattern. We'll see if it holds.
God, I hope so. Oh, God, I hope so.
Well, first of the marquee matchups, Bills at Buccaneers.
Couple reasons why I cannot take the Bills, even though I was really close. I mean, literally almost wrote the Bills down. I figured maybe this is a bounce back game for them. They go down to warmer weather. They don't have to worry about the wind.
The wind, the rain, the snow, the whatever.
But I did not like how the Patriots pushed them
up and down the field
with that running game. I did not like how
the
Bills could not stop the Patriots running game.
Yeah.
And you've got Fournette and you've got Jones here. The Bucs could do the same thing because their offensive line is stout.
It's a better running game that they have than New England does.
Now, the Bills will put up points because that Bucs secondary,
it's
like the Ravens, now they're starting to get healthy. The Bucs secondary is where the Ravens are getting decimated and they're injured. But
they're still not.
I look at the similarities between the two in that great head coaches. They will adjust. They will figure out what to do. The Bucs need to catch the Cardinals to get that first round bye. And the Bills, I'm telling you, this is disappointing. This was my Super Bowl pick.
I know.
The Bills were my Super Bowl pick.
This should have been your Super Bowl preview game.
Yeah, and I don't
know.
To
set the tone, and I don't know that it's going to happen.
The Bills have so many problems. They don't have a secondary wide receiver beyond Diggs. I don't like the 3-headed monster they've got running the ball. Breida, Singletary, Moss. Neither of them, any of them can't do anything.
No.
So it's all on Josh Allen.
Yeah, they're trying to run all 3 running backs out there, and they can't get any kind. We talked about it last week that they can't get any kind of rhythm because the line doesn't know who they're blocking for from one series to the next, and they're all different.
Right. But again, we talked about the Patriots who just beat them and how they're pulling it off. So I think you can pull 2 off. I don't think you can pull 3 off.
3 is too much.
Right. So everybody but Mrs. C, of course.
Yep, the diehard Bills fan that she is.
Everybody's taking the Bucs to win at home against the Bills. Boy, that'll knock the Bills to what, 7-6?
Yeah.
Who would have thought
disappointing.
That? Who would have thought that? Finally, Monday night, the 13th, Rams at Cardinals.
This is for the West.
Yes, if the Cardinals win this, I think they've locked up the West.
Yeah, and they have been much more consistent in their performance on both sides of the ball than the Rams have. There's something not right with Stafford.
I agree. Stafford looks like the same quarterback he was in Detroit. He'll put up numbers. He'll throw for 300, 3 touchdowns, but he's not a leader. He is not leading this team.
No, and he's made
and
some
bringing
stupid
Odell
mistakes.
Beckham Jr. in was just stupid. When he lost Robert Woods, that hurt. He lost viable number 2. Tyler Higbee, we've talked about him, has not been the great tight end
Higbee has been a disaster.
We thought he was going to end up being a top 10 tight end. He has not.
No.
So that's another target taken away from Stafford. The running game is hit or miss. Henderson's been hurt. Now, Sonny Michel looked great last week, but it was against Jacksonville.
And
so who knows?
He's mediocre at best.
Right. The only thing that worries me is God, I don't know how far to go with the Cardinals. With Cliff Kingsbury, am I supposed to trust Cliff Kingsbury to win the number 1 seed in the NFC over Sean McVay, over Bruce Arians, over LaFleur in Green Bay? Now, part of me is rooting for him. Part of me is rooting for him because that will mean more college coaches will try to take the leap.
Coming up into
give us
the
some
NFL,
new blood into the NFL in the coaching ranks,
which is needed.
So we get rid of the Mike McCarthy's of the world. But again, Urban Meyer's killing
that thought process.
Yeah, he's offsetting Cliff Kingsbury right now.
Yeah, but the problem is Meyer's been out of coaching for too long.
I agree with you, though, with this game. I agree with you. The Cardinals, they impressed me against Chicago. I know it's beating the Bears, but it was in bad weather. It was on the road. West Coast team coming to the Central Time Zone.
They took care of business
very well. James Conner looks solid, and they might get Chase Edmonds back this week. Might, but I don't think they need him.
No, they don't, because Conner has taken over that number 1 role. He's showing he is the back that left Pittsburgh.
Right. They've got more than enough weapons between Zach Ertz at tight end. Now Hopkins is back. Christian Kirk.
They're fine.
AJ Green. I really would have thought at this point in the season, if you'd asked me back in September,
the Rams would have been running away with it. I'd have
taken the Rams, but I'm taking the Cardinals.
Have to.
Everybody but Mrs. C taking the Cardinals. She is taking the LA Rams.
Yep.
All right.
We took enough time away from the NCAA. I think we
might have to spill over again. we said there might be 4 segments this week. All right. Do you or do you not agree with me that this setup for the Final Four, let's just talk about
complete and bullshit.
They set this up so they could get an Alabama-Georgia rematch in the title game.
I don't want to see it.
I don't either, but that's the thing. They set this up so they would get it.
It's absolute crap the way they lined it up. It's bullshit.
Cincinnati wins convincingly and drops a spot.
Michigan
to set them up against Alabama.
Michigan, sitting ranked 2, wins. And they should be 1. But no, they have to jump Bama all the way from 4-1. That's bullshit. Never should have happened. 3-1. You can't leapfrog like that. That's an absolute travesty. This whole committee is as corrupt as any. It's worse than the BCS ever was.
I still think they should go to the AP. I still think they should. And maybe the AP would be no different.
But no,
but the minute
it's a joke. It is a joke.
The minute I saw this all fall out, I did watch the entire Alabama-Georgia game.
Yeah.
keeping
What the
track.
hell happened to Georgia's vaunted defense?
Well, part of it was they're dealing with a quarterback that they're not comfortable with. You know, they've got two quarterbacks. The one was injured. But
the
again,
Georgia
that
defense
doesn't affect the defense. You're right. The defense did not show up. Bryce Young probably won the Heisman with that game.
No, and that's pathetic.
Even though I've got arguments about that too.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
We'll get there when we talk Heisman. Okay.
But I agree with you completely. This thing is all set up.
It reeks.
They're trying to knock Michigan and Cincinnati out so they can get their SEC dream match.
We've seen it. We don't want to see it again. I am so sick of watching teams play in the conference, having a conference game, then facing off in a conference championship, and then them shoving down your throat a third time in the college football playoffs, be it one of the first two games or for the championship. I'm done with this crap.
And now they're saying that they're not going to expand they were thinking about maybe 2 or 3 years down the road. Now they're saying that's
it's going to be maybe 10 years.
Yeah.
No, you guys are morons
so
if you can't figure this
over
out.
and over and over again. And I'm with you. I can't stand it.
I'm done with this.
Stand it. And everybody said, "Whoa, look, we got Clemson out this year. Aren't you happy? No Oklahoma, no Notre Dame. Oh, great.
We don't fucking want Alabama and Georgia either."
Jim Harbaugh finally figured out a way to put on his big boy pants and not shit the bed. In Cincinnati, you finally acknowledge the fact that program should be on the same level as your Power 5. Cincinnati has been great for a decade.
Undefeated. And yet you still penalize them and put them 4.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
You drop them a spot because, Georgia, mighty Georgia, couldn't come through again. Kirby Smart couldn't come through again, but we'll only drop them 2. So we can wink, wink.
Nudge, nudge.
Get the Michigan-Georgia matchup and let Cincinnati be the sacrificial lamb to Alabama.
Hate this crap.
Ratings. Money.
No, it's money.
Well, that's ratings too. Ratings give you ad revenue, gives you money.
Guess what? If it comes down to Georgia, Alabama, I refuse to watch the game. I've seen it once already.
Well, I'll tell you what. If I will probably watch it, and if Alabama comes out again and kicks the crap out of Kirby Smart, I will be screaming, fraud, up and down the street.
Yep, I won't acknowledge it.
I'm not taking anything away from Nick Saban. I'm not taking anything away from Alabama. The man is the Bill Belichick of college football. But I will say shame on every other program, every other team, and the committee.
For bowing down?
For not figuring out how to make this more equitable. Speaking of which, we've got to talk about the coaching changes, part 2. Carrying on from last week, we talked about Brian Kelly. Dave, did you hear Brian Kelly's wonderful Southern accent as he was addressing the crowd?
My God, he developed a Southern accent before he put a coaching staff together.
He pulled a Hillary Clinton. I ain't no ways tired.
Wasn't that Kamala Harris over in France picking up a French accent?
How dumb are these
stupid.
people? How about some self-awareness? I mean, I listened to that clip a couple times, and I'm just thinking, what are you thinking?
He's trying to assimilate quickly, trying to... He's a Midwest guy! My God.
I mean, it's so condescending.
It is. It's pathetic. It's a pathetic pandering attempt. I mean, it spoke volumes when you saw him addressing the LSU team for the first time. And all the LSU players are just sitting there, arms folded, no reaction at all. When he's talking about integrity and doing things the right way.
Yeah, then he pulls the whole Southern accent thing.
And then you look at up at Notre Dame when Marcus Freeman comes in, and the team goes absolutely ballistic.
Yep. That's why that hire could end up being perfect. I was thinking Luke Fickell would be the guy, but they probably didn't want to dip into the Cincinnati well again after
Probably
Brian
not.
Kelly. Good for Marcus Freeman. I hope he does well. I'm not going to go as far as saying they're going to be better. I think he will stabilize the program.
It's going to be stabilized. We'll have to see. I will say one thing, though. Only one coach left and actually
Right.
followed Brian Kelly. Polian
I
there.
think they threw money at Tommy Rees and told him, we need you to stay.
Yeah. Be that as it may, he still stayed. He
Right.
could have bolted.
Right.
But only Polian, their special teams coach, left.
Right.
So we'll see how things transpire.
In the grand scheme of things, I don't think it's a bad hire for Notre Dame.
No.
But
let's see how
Let me give you an example of how staying in-house can bite you in the ass.
Are we going down to Miami?
We're going down to hurricane country where Manny Diaz finally got fired.
My God, the way they left him dangling in the wind, waiting to see if Crystal Ball would accept, was pathetic.
It was bad. But you are looking at a total regime change. Diaz actually did point out that the athletic department down at Miami was not getting the support they needed.
Right.
And they have had a huge influx of cash recently from this whole health thing. They have set up massive networks of...
They got a shit ton of money coming in, and they threw it at Clemson's athletic director.
That's not official yet. I have not seen that yet. I have not seen that yet. I know what you're talking about.
Everything you read shows that it's almost as good as done.
Yes, because he has ties to the Hurricanes program from back in the Schnellenberger and Jimmy Johnson era. Dan Radakovich, Clemson AD, is supposedly, wink, wink, the next Miami AD, and that goes into what we're talking about. They're just going to throw money at the program now.
Yeah, and
after Manny Diaz bitched and pissed and moaned and said, why don't you throw money at the program?
Okay, we'll throw it at somebody.
You're gone. Yeah, because on top of that, Mario Cristobal comes from, as you mentioned, from Oregon. And of course, he's got ties to the Hurricanes as well.
Yeah. My God, the money, they're paying him $8 million a year, plus they're paying the $9 million buyout to get him out of Oregon.
And the $8 million buyout to get rid of Diaz.
Yeah.
So they are throwing money at the program.
Money big time.
And I'm telling you, I've talked about him for weeks and weeks. The linchpin of this, and they better hope he doesn't go in the transfer protocol or the transfer portal, whatever it is in the Dr. Pepper ads.
Yeah. The portal.
Kyle Van Dyke has got to stay at Miami. That kid looked phenomenal this year.
He did, but is he the type of quarterback Cristobal wants?
He better damn well want him, because if we lose him, whoever gets him, oh my God, they're set. That kid looks phenomenal. Phenomenal. And I've told you, the Miami Hurricanes need, I don't want this run and gun, run option shit. They need a drop back passer like Van Dyke.
Yeah.
They do.
We will see.
All right.
Oklahoma State fallout. They lose their defensive coordinator, Jim Knowles, to Ohio State. The person who held that Oklahoma State team together for the season.
Yeah, boy, we got burned on that, and we'll get to our picks from last week in the championship. We'll probably have to carry that over.
Yeah.
But boy, half a yard.
Freaking yard.
And Oklahoma State might have been able to make a case. Now, would they have knocked Cincinnati out?
Probably. I don't know. You never know.
One loss Oklahoma State team versus an undefeated Cincinnati team. That would have been an interesting debate.
A Big 12, one-loss Big 12 champion versus a one-loss Georgia, perhaps?
Oh, they were going to... No, everybody already said Georgia was in no matter what, which is garbage. Garbage. So I'm going to give props to our other champions. Pittsburgh in the ACC.
Yep. Who? Their offensive coordinator, Mark Whipple, unexpectedly resigns with no reason given that I saw last night when I read the story.
I can't remember. He moved on to another job, though.
Okay. But, man, that hurts them for their bowl game.
That's not the only thing. I'm hearing rumors that Kenny Pickett, and again, we'll get to the Heisman finalists here in a minute, Kenny Pickett might pull a Christian McCaffrey and not play in the bowl game.
Good grief.
Come on. Have you noticed? Okay, you're looking at Christian McCaffrey's money. You think that's phenomenal. He can't stay healthy in the pros. So what good does it do you to abandon your teammates that you've been with for 3 or 4 years?
Yeah, I'm sorry, but if you pull that does not, to me, that does not mean you're going to be a good teammate at the next level.
That's why you and I don't run a team, because you and I think the same thing. I see that and I go, I don't want you.
Me guy.
I don't want you on my team. I don't want you on my team.
See, now with McCaffrey pulling that, how much of his injuries could he have played through some of this stuff? We don't know.
Like you said, me. It's all me. We talked about Oklahoma State. They did lose by half a yard to Baylor, so kudos to Baylor for winning the Big 12. Great year for that program. Great year for that school. The number 2 right now in basketball obviously won the men's championship.
Yep.
And now they're looking at possibly a top 10 final finish in football.
Very impressive.
How about Utah in the Pac-12? Demolishing Mario Cristobal.
Yeah. Didn't think they could go pull it off like they did, but damn if they didn't do it.
Yep, so kudos to them. All right, time for us to look at the Heisman finalists. I do not like this list. I do not.
It's not solid. I'm sorry. I have Bryce Young is there because he's Alabama's quarterback. He was not impressive all season.
I'm okay with him.
Okay
with him.
He stood out one game against Georgia. That was his only standout game.
I know we need to get defensive guys involved. And a lot of people are saying, like you're talking about Bryce Young, maybe they should have, they're saying that maybe we should have taken the linebacker from Alabama instead of Hutchinson and Bryce Young.
I would have been okay with that because he was a difference maker the entire season.
You got C.J. Stroud.
Okay.
Ohio State's QB.
No, I'm not impressed with him.
And then Kenny Pickett from Pittsburgh,
who wrote the entire Pittsburgh record book that was set by Dan Marino.
To me, there's one glaring omission. And we can talk about this in the college ranks. We can talk about this in the pro ranks. Because right now, Jonathan Taylor in the pros should be the MVP. Jonathan Taylor of the Colts, if they make the playoffs, should be the NFL MVP. But they will not give it to anybody but a quarterback.
Yeah.
And I find that ridiculous. I find that stupid.
And
now we're seeing the same thing in college.
We've had such a run.
3 of the 4 Heisman finalists are quarterbacks. And then you throw in, I'm sorry, I say a token defensive player.
Yeah.
Not even probably the one that should have been in there.
Right.
What happened to Michigan State's Kenneth Walker III? I don't watch a ton of college football outside of the Hurricanes and the Fighting Irish.
That kid was a running
I know
monster.
him from what I've seen of Michigan State this year. 1,646 rushing yards. 2nd overall in Division I. 1st in the Power 5. 18 rushing touchdowns. How the hell is he not in the Final Four?
He should be up there ahead of C.J. Stroud.
I agree. And again, I'm going by the people I've seen in my limited viewing of college football. But I'm telling you, I watched a couple games of Michigan State. I saw them beat the shit out of Miami. And this kid was reason number one why.
Yeah, he is the reason why that team did as well as they did this year.
Watch out for him in the pros. All right, real quick, going over the championship games that we didn't already talk about. Western Kentucky gets beat by UTSA. How the hell did I miss out on that? The Western Kentucky quarterback is supposed to be so freaking good.
Yeah, I know.
Jen and I missed out on that. We talked about Utah beating up on Oregon. We talked about Baylor barely getting by Oklahoma State.
Yep, Kent State laid an egg.
Northern Illinois goes from no wins to the conference championship.
Three of us were wrong on that one.
San Diego State, that one. What the hell was that?
What did I say last week? That I'm going against what I should be doing, and I picked them when I didn't want to.
And Utah State blew their doors off.
Yeah, it wasn't
33-point victory. Wow.
Ugh.
Louisiana beats Appalachian State. Okay, it was close.
It was a close game.
The Houston-Cincinnati game, again, Cincinnati beats a good Houston team by 15 points and gets penalized for it.
Pathetic.
And then once again, we talked about Michigan. I mean, Iowa didn't even show up.
No, they were nowhere close in that game.
Here's a question. When do they think about realigning the divisions in the Big Ten? Because it's so one-sided.
It's skewed so bad.
They have got...
I know they were trying to do it geographically.
Right. And we were talking about the fact that they manipulated everything for this playoff, right? So you could have, in the end, Alabama playing Georgia.
Yeah.
Why can't
the Big Ten do it to manipulate Michigan, Ohio State?
Be realigned so Michigan, Ohio State can play? Why do they all have to be? Because every year it's Wisconsin or Iowa. I mean, teams that are the other side, Ohio State, Michigan, are going to destroy whoever is in.
Yeah, they were hoping
the Big Ten.
At one point that Nebraska would have risen to past greatness.
Yeah.
And that's not going to happen anytime soon.
No. And then finally we talked about, of course, Pittsburgh playing a little bit of defense, and that's all you need to do against Wake Forest. Yep. So they win. Good for the Panthers.
Yeah. And we have one game in college this week. Army-Navy.
But, of course, an important game. We always pick this every year.
Yep.
Army, to me, is the better team. I mean, we watched Navy in person here about a month ago.
Not impressive at all.
Yeah, I just think Army's a better team.
You look at watching the game, some of the highlights from Army versus some of the highlights from Navy. You look at the numbers, it should be a one-sided game.
Now, the spread is only 7.5, which I thought would be much bigger than that.
I would have thought so, too, with the scoring discrepancy and the defensive discrepancies. But then we saw that last year where we thought Navy was so much better than Army, and Army pulled it off.
Right. So Jen and Doug are going with Navy. Everybody else goes with Army. So there you go, kids. Next week, our bowl preview. Dave and I will go through the first wave of bowls.
The great equalizer, as we call it, because we pick every single bowl game there is.
That's right. 43 bowl games this year, including the national championship.
Oh, God. Crazy time, baby.
And the thing is, it's a lot different from last year because, remember, we lost a lot of bowl games because of COVID. So This will be the first time in 2 years we have an actual full slate of bowl games.
And it's going to be a knockdown.
All right, kids. We have got baseball. We've got NASCAR. We've got dumbasses coming up. Stay tuned. We will be right back.
Listen to Sports Frenzy 2.0, the weekend edition, on Spotify, Anchor, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Apple, Overcast, and Castbox, as the Maestro and Conquistador give their reviews and news on music, movies, TV, books, and more every Saturday. They can't help themselves. They have no control over this need to talk and scream. It's inside them. The fire, the voices, the torment.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Sports Frenzy 2.0. I'm the Maestro, Kevin Crane.
I'm the Conquistador, Dave Height.
We're going to wrap things up here, taping on the 8th of December 2021. This will hit tomorrow morning on the 9th. Hope you enjoyed our ranting and raving about the NFL and the NCAA, but now it's time to circle the globe and take care of every other sports entity, venue, thing we can absolutely think of, including dumbasses and, of course, moments of silence. NASCAR, first and foremost. Even though it's off season, there are things happening. There is news.
Few little things, one not so little.
Well, there was an acquisition. Richard Petty Motorsports was bought out by GMS Racing. Maury Gallagher bought a majority stake, and now it has been christened Petty GMS Motorsports.
This is probably going to be a good thing for that team overall. An influx of money by a younger owner coming in. Petty maintaining the face of the organization, being the legend that he is, will still lend that gravitas in the sport. But it's going to be GMS for the most part.
Of course, they'll stick with Eric Jones and Ty Dillon. Eric Jones will still run the iconic 43. And I believe Ty Dillon's going to go with 42. Lee Petty's old number?
Kyle's.
Okay.
Kyle had it as well.
Doesn't matter. But the most popular driver, once again, is Chase Elliott.
Fourth time. Once a driver gets initiated as the popular driver, until they retire, they pretty much have it locked.
Yep. He did get a 3-year extension with Hooters. That's really the main thing.
That's a good thing, especially if you want to go eat cheaper at Hooters. If he does well, they have some nice specials.
Did they still do that with Harvick at Outback?
I have no idea.
Yeah. Anytime you can give us free food, we're there. Baseball, of course, the lockout, dong, 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 has begun. Dark days once again looming for Major League Baseball because they can't get out of their own way.
Exactly. We talked about it last week at the preview. What the Baseball Hall of Fame finally got right was from the Golden Days group and the early baseball era group. Thank God Minnie Minoso finally recognized for his contributions to baseball, being the first Cuban-born player in the Major League Baseball. 9-time All-Star, played through, 5 different decades with the White Sox. One of the most personable guys you could ever meet. My buddy Jamie and I went many years ago to a Sox Fest, and they had autograph sessions, and we got an autograph with Minnie, and then we're walking through the hall, and he's just sitting there talking with people, so we stopped up to say hi. He spent 10 minutes chatting with us about anything and everything. Just an incredible person. And it's a shame that he passed before getting the nod.
Yeah, that's the thing. This is the Veterans Committee vote. And they try to make up for the wrongs that the regular voting committee
Screwed up.
obviously always makes.
Yeah. So in addition to Minnie, the Golden Days group put in Gil Hodges from the Dodgers, and then a twin entry with Jim Catt and Tony Oliva. Well deserved.
Those two are the only two, as you mentioned. Most of these gentlemen are dead, unfortunately. Yeah. Cott and Oliva are still alive.
Thankfully, they get to do it.
Yep.
And then the early era group put in Buck O'Neill and Bud Fowler. And they still screwed up and didn't put Dick Allen in.
I was waiting for the Dick Allen. I was waiting for it. One vote short of Dick Allen.
They got to get him in at some point. Probably the best player still out there, not in currently, from back in the day.
I'll be interested to see how the regular Hall of Fame vote goes. Because when you've got all the steroid guys
coming up for their last year of eligibility.
That'll be interesting. All right, I want to talk real quick about a couple topics in basketball. First up, college. Kudos to the Boilermakers. Purdue is finally number one in the AP poll for the first time ever.
My God, and they had some damn good teams.
That amazes me that this is the first time they've ever been ranked number one.
All those Gene Katie teams from back in the 70s and 80s.
Now, Matt Painter's still the head coach, right?
I have no idea.
I think he is.
Could be.
But they have done an amazing job over the years of keeping talent in-house, recruiting. Kudos to Purdue.
Good for them.
Because God knows I want anybody but Duke at number one.
Amen to that. Forget anybody related to Tobacco Road.
Of course, our teams, well, again, Dave says Notre Dame is not his team.
I don't like Notre Dame basketball.
Notre Dame's 3-4. The Hurricanes are 6-3.
Good for them.
Finally, props to Texas Southern. Texas Southern was 0-7 going into play the mighty Florida Gators, ranked 20th at the time in the AP poll, and they beat them.
Good for them. I love an awesome Cinderella upset like that.
This was the first time a Southwestern Athletic Conference team had ever in history beaten a ranked SEC team.
I love it. Beautiful.
So now we move on to the pampered pros. We talked about the Suns' win streak. Suns got to 18 wins before it was ended by guess who? Steph Curry and Golden State. Because right now, those two teams
rain down.
Those two teams are headed for a massive showdown. Just get rid of the regular season. We've said this year after year with the NBA. I want the Suns and the Warriors in the Western Finals right now. That will be 7 unbelievable games. They should be the overall final, but of course.
Yeah, you still have the East-West until you have the full-on reseeding.
Because, of course, you've got the super team out there in the East with the Nets, who are
they're okay.
They're 17-7. The Bulls are just a half game back.
Yeah.
Milwaukee's starting to make their move. They're pushing up.
So those are the three best teams in the East right now.
Right. Miami, of course, has had devastating injuries with Bam Adebayo. He's done for a while, so.
And you can pretty much write off the Lakers at this point.
Oh, no, you can never write off the Lakers because LeBron James is the greatest player of all time.
He hasn't even played much this year.
I just love hearing Charles Barkley rip Anthony Davis to shreds.
Oh, my God. Wasn't that brilliant?
God, Barkley hates him, and I love him. I love him for it.
He hates him as a player because he doesn't show up.
Right.
They get along off the court. He likes him. but he can't stand him as a player.
And Shaq's not a fan either.
No. I mean, this is a guy who disappears on the court. There's no leadership. He's just kind of there taking up space.
And I still think this is a referendum on LeBron James. At some point, when do we start saying he's not as great as everybody makes him out to be? He's just not.
Yeah, and you can't put all of this on their coach either. The
No,
players
and they
are
want to
not...
fire Vogel. That's the other thing. Right now, there's rumors that they want Vogel out.
Vogel is not the problem. The problem is all your shooters are shooting well under 30%. They're not performing.
Who are you bringing in? Are you going to bring Tyronn Lue back in? Jesus Christ. Come on.
Sanity has...
Popovich couldn't. Kerr couldn't.
Nobody can do anything with these guys because they are not performing.
And I have to bring up one last point in the NBA. I know we don't like to spend a ton of time on the NBA, but come on. This bears note on Sports Frenzy. The Memphis Grizzlies beat the Oklahoma City Thunder last week.
Oh my God.
152-79. A 73-point beatdown that set the record for the worst defeat ever in the NBA.
That's pretty pathetic. That's bad. That's epically...
And the sad thing is,
once in a century bad.
There were these teams that we knew were going to be bad. Oklahoma City, Houston. I'll rip on my team. As bad as Oklahoma City got beat down here, they're still better than the Magic. The Magic are still the second worst team next to Detroit in the NBA.
There you go.
So even though they got beat by 73, OKC's not the worst.
No, they are not. Now, COVID rears its ugly head with travel across the border into Canada. A memo has been sent to teams warning unvaccinated players that, was it January 15th is the deadline for them to get vaccinated. Any player who goes in on their temporary visa, either coming from Canada to the United States or the U.S. to Canada, they will not be allowed back in to the country from one side or the other until after they quarantine for 14 days.
Now, see, my understanding was they had to be vaccinated. There was no quarantine period. They're done. They cannot cross the border.
There was they had something with a 14 or with their temporary visa where if they went over to play, they wouldn't be able to cross back over until they're quarantined for 14 days. There is a stipulation.
So that's basically saying, yeah, you can't, because who's going to cross over with, let's say you're Antonio Brown and you don't have a legitimate vaccination card.
Although maybe that's the 14-day up until January 15th, and after the 15th, you can't go, period.
Well, think about it. Even if
because
it was
Canada
the other way
has
around,
shut down, you cannot go to Canada unless you have proof of vaccination.
That's my understanding.
But I do know there was a temporary thing that they had worked out.
But even the other way around, if you go up to play a game, let's say against the Raptors in Toronto, and then you have to sit there for 14 days, that's going to kill you for how many games coming back across the board. So there's something going on here where Canada is going to, they can do what they want. Snowflake country that they are. They can do what they want. But is this going to extend? What's it going to do for the NHL, too? I have only heard this about the NBA. For some reason, they're only talking about how this impacts the NBA teams. I would think this will be devastating for the NHL.
The NHL has a better vaccination rate than the NBA.
True. Gee.
The NHL
why?
Mandated.
That's why, huh? That could be why.
There you go.
We're not going to say anything more about it.
So.
And then baseball, if they play, if this stays in effect into April, this could affect the Blue Jays. Do the Blue Jays come back down? again and play in Buffalo or in Florida?
That remains to be seen.
Oh, boy.
So, wrapping up some NHL stuff, some major coaching changes taking place. The Flyers fired Alain Vigneault after 9 straight losses. Also gone is assistant coach Michael Therian. Assistant coach Mike Yeo has been put in charge as acting coach and may get the permanent spot. He's a former head coach of Minnesota Wild and St. Louis Blues. And then Vancouver Canucks fired Travis Green and assistant coach Nolan Baumgartner, and also fired their GM Jim Benning and his assistant. And they bring Bruce Boudreau back out of retirement for his 4th go-round as an NHL head coach. Retread.
Now, we talked about the Blackhawks off mic.
Right.
They're playing better.
They are. Big hit last night as we tape here in New York, the Rangers with Kara. Questionable. Some say it was a questionable hit. I've seen the replays. The Blackhawks Kara had his head down as he's skating up the ice, and I can't remember who it was from the Rangers who hit him. Just basically skated into him. It was a clean hit. He didn't lead with his shoulder. He didn't leave his feet. It would have been a clean hit. It's just that Kara had his head down, and when he went down, his head bounced off the ice, which led to the biggest issue they had, stretchering him off. If it was a dirty hit, I would be calling the Rangers every name in the book, screaming bloody freaking murder.
Yeah, believe me, kids. That's why we brought this up, is that I had heard a lot of people in New York radio, because they played the Rangers, talking about this, and they were like, oh, clean hit. But I needed to get Dave's viewpoint as a Blackhawks fan, whether he thought it
wasn't a dirty hit. They always tell you, keep your head up. See where you're going to be able to watch out for this stuff. And a lot of the big hits happen when the player getting checked has his head down and isn't paying attention. And it was just an unfortunate circumstance. Now, thankfully, he's fine. Prognosis is good. So
yeah, we would want prognosis negative.
Exactly. So no, it's looking. He should be just fine.
I think that's my second Seinfeld reference of
It
the
is.
episode. Yeah, sorry.
You're proud of that, aren't you?
I am.
He needs every little bit he can get, kids.
Every time I can get Seinfeld in an episode, I'm happy. All right. I was going to put this in the dumbasses of the week, but I find this so funny that I have to separate it because it's actually clever, even though I would like our government to spend a little more time fixing things instead of doing petty stuff like this. But I'm petty. So Senator Bill Coleman out of Oklahoma has put forth a bill where he wants to name a 3-inch stretch of a desolate highway in Oklahoma, State Highway 325, 3 inches of it he wants to call the Lincoln Riley Highway because
it's on the way out of Oklahoma.
Yeah. Yep.
Now a local radio station DJs were talking about that this morning, and I agree with their thoughts. That should have been an exit ramp that they named after the Lincoln Riley exit ramp.
Yep. Going off into, again, nowhere. I like the bitterness. I do.
It's apropos.
You know, sports fans are always going to feel that way, you know, when a coach leaves. Funny how I don't hear anybody up here in South Bend saying anything other than, hey, Marcus Freeman, yay.
Yep.
I still think in the end this will work out for the Irish.
It's going to be fine.
Yep. Let's put it this way. It's not going to be any worse.
No.
It's not going to be any worse.
No. And maybe recruiting can pick up. Who knows?
Yep. Yeah, and of course that's the big thing with Brian Kelly. Is they're saying, well, he's so good at recruiting that now he's going to be down in that fertile ground of Louisiana. Where
we'll see.
Is he going to pull out his fake Cajun accent?
Yeah, well, he did bring back to Louisiana Frank Wilson, who was one of LSU's top recruiters back in the day under Les Miles.
Well, and that's another thing going to Miami. That's why they're excited about Cristobal.
Back.
Cristobal is just
Former
well-known beyond belief in Southern Florida. He was bringing people up to Oregon from Southern Florida. They think he's going to just poach everything from Florida, Florida State, UCF.
It'll be interesting to see how it all works out.
Yep. All right, couple moments of silence here before we move on to our dumbasses of the week. We have a unique moment of silence here. A horse.
Yes.
Medina Spirit, the 2021 Kentucky Derby winner, tainted as it was, that win. But you wonder about the whole big picture with these horses, and how many of them die running. See, to me, you can get rid of horse racing, and I wouldn't give a rat's ass.
Yeah, I don't care.
I'm not a namby-pamby PETA guy, but I'll tell you what, if you want to get rid of horse racing, dog racing, I'm fine with it.
I have no problem getting rid of those.
If you'll shut the liberal namby-pamby PETA people up for 10 years.
Well, the money in it is ridiculous.
That's the thing. That's why you'll never get rid of it.
The sport of kings. Yeah, because you have to be a rich mother to be able to even
go.
Bob
Baffert and
You talk about a guy who's the epitome of what a sleazeball looks like. He's straight off Central Casting.
Yeah. But see, that's the thing. You and I would be fine. You get rid of horse racing. We've talked occasionally about the Kentucky Derby and the mid-julep, drinking, and wouldn't that be kind of cool to go to the Kentucky Derby and drink, those stupid frou-frou drinks.
No.
But in the end, get rid of it.
But you know where I want to go for the party is the PGA down in Arizona on the 9th hole, which is supposed to rival what the Snake Pit used to be at Indianapolis for the party debauchery atmosphere.
But again, I don't care about animal fighting. I mean, to me, horse racing, I am going to actually sound like a snowflake for 2 seconds. God help me. But again, if you want to get rid of horse racing, you want to get rid of dog racing, greyhound racing, that's fine with me.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it.
Doesn't bother me because to me, then why not legalize cockfighting? Then why not all this underground, the pit bull fighting, the shit that Michael Vick was doing? Why not legalize that?
Yeah.
I don't think we should be doing that to animals. I don't.
There you go.
One time in my life, I will be a snowflake and say, animals should not, they don't have the type of mental control that humans do. We can if two guys want to get in a ring and beat the hell out of each other,
they're making that conscious choice.
Animals don't have that conscious choice.
There you go.
On the NFL front, Hall of Famer Claude Humphrey passed away. So, of course, thoughts and prayers to his family and friends.
Yep. And then, did we cover Curly Culp?
I think we got him last week. We did get Curly last week.
That's right.
Yep.
So.
All right. I have 3 dumbasses. I think it would be a fun time to play Dumbass or Not.
I love this game.
I know one for sure. Dave's gonna love this. He's gonna give me a thumbs up. The other ones, maybe not. Let's start with the one.
Let's go with the gimme.
No. I want to go with the one that's the toughest.
Okay.
Jordan Spieth and Henrik Stenson are playing at the Hero World Challenge in the Bahamas.
Oh, boo-hoo.
They go to the tee on the 9th hole. They both tee off. No problem. Nothing wrong. Official comes up and says, penalize 2 shots. You hit from the wrong tee box.
Both of them?
Both of them. Supposedly
Okay.
there was a warning that somebody told everybody before the round started, we might shift the tee boxes for the 9th and the 17th because they're close together.
Okay.
But they both went up just nonchalantly, teed off, not checking to see.
The problem I have is, where was the PGA official
They wait.
reminding them?
No, they wait until they screw up. That's what they do. You know this. They want them to screw up. They wait until they screw up, and then they go, oh, by the way, you hit out of the wrong tee box.
If they're right next to each other, if it's that damn close and not obvious, that's on the PGA.
So you're saying no dumbass.
I'm calling the PGA dumbasses for their archaic, stupid rules and the way they run things.
They wait to see people fail and then call them out.
Yes.
Instead of saying, hey, before you hit the ball, you're in the wrong tee box.
You know what? If it's that questionable, why wasn't it marked clearly?
Okay, I agree with that. So I think that's a no dumbass.
That's a no dumbass.
I know you're going to love this one. One of the bowls we'll be picking coming up here in the next few weeks will be the LA Bowl.
Who gives a
It gets better. As you know, all these bowls have sponsors, right?
Yeah.
It's not just the Independence Bowl. It's
whatever.
The Lay's Potato Chips Independence Bowl or whatever.
Whatever their sponsor of the year is.
Sponsor for the LA Bowl. The Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl.
Oh, for the love of God. Why? ABC is shelling out the money to put Kimmel's name on this.
It's got to be. It's got to be. Why else would it be the Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl?
That is absolutely crap.
Can you imagine if we get to this point where we're going to start naming bowls, sponsoring bowls after celebrities?
Oh my
the
God.
Stephen Colbert Anal Penetration Bowl? I mean, seriously.
This is ridiculous. I'm tired of adding bowl after bowl to award mediocrity in all these conferences.
Yeah, anybody who's 500 or better becomes bowl eligible. No, it's good for the kids.
It is, but the money is
they get
stupid.
to play.
It's dumb.
See, that's the thing.
It's
I will always
dumb.
say these guys get to go travel places they might not ever get to go to. That's the one thing I give these, because, oh, God, we don't give them enough. We give them free money, free scholarships, free food and room and board, but let's give them a travel voucher, too, for the bowl game. God forbid.
Let's give more money to the programs. Yeah. That's just dumbass.
Okay, now this one, the final one, I know we have little time to discuss this, but I just found out about this past week. Illinois State fired their assistant offensive coordinator, Kurt Beathard, because he came back late last year, after dealing with his wife having a grave illness, to find somebody had put a Black Lives Matter sign on his office door. He took the sign down. He put up a sign that basically said all lives matter. He was fired.
That's ridiculous.
Number one, you don't put anything on my office door. I decide what goes on my office door. You don't get to put your political slogan on my office door. And the fact that, again, our faculties in our colleges in this country are so ridiculously hippie, left-leaning, snowflake, asshole idiots that they would fire a guy after he comes back from taking a leave to care for his sick wife. And he just takes down a BLM sign and puts up one that says, basically, all lives matter.
Yeah, especially him coming back dealing with that. It's a personal thing for him. I'm sorry, that's a dumbass move by the university.
I hope he sues. I hope he wins.
That's
And
ridiculous.
if you haven't figured it out by now, kids, Sports Frenzy, we're not politically correct. And I'm telling you, you put something
All
on my
lives
office
matter.
door that I don't agree with, it's coming off.
Yeah, because Black lives matter. Asian lives
Blue
matter.
lives matter.
Hispanic lives. Everybody.
You matter. We love you.
I'm
We
sorry,
will
not
see you
Hispanic
next week.
Latinx.